Hi, I'm Cheryl Ann from Cherry Lane's Cupcakes, and today I'm going to show you how to bake these Love Heart cheese tarts. Well, the name pretty much says it all. It's a cheesecake in a tart with a love heart on top. These little tarts are so versatile, you can literally put any design you want on top of them. You can even write a little message on top if you really wanted to, but I just went ahead and made little love hearts. Anyways, enough talking, let's get straight into it. You will need 140 grams of softened unsalted butter, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, half a cup of caster sugar, 2 cups of sifted plain flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, a quarter teaspoon of salt, and finally, 1 large egg. Firstly, pour your baking powder and your salt over the top of your flour and then just sift that through. Once that's done, just use a whisk and give it a good mix through so as to ensure that your salt and your baking powder is thoroughly incorporated with your flour and just evenly distributed throughout. Next, in a separate bowl, beat together your softened unsalted butter as well as your sugar. Start beating it on low until you see your butter and your sugar start to kind of combine. Then you switch it on to high and you beat that for about 3 to 5 minutes until your sugar looks nice and light and fluffy. Don't forget to scrape down the sides as you go along so that you ensure that you are thoroughly beating together all of the sugar and the butter. Once your mixture looks something like that, add in your egg and your vanilla extract and just beat that until everything is well mixed together and looks smooth. Next, just add in half of your flour mixture and beat that on low until it starts to combine, and then just add in the rest of your flour mixture and keep beating that until you start to see your flour come together with your butter and sugar mixture. Don't expect it to come together and form one clunk of dough just yet. It should look like coarse crumbs, and when you pick it up, it can still fall through your fingers. It's still rather separated within the mixture itself, but when you squeeze it together, it can still hold its shape. Next, just empty the contents of that bowl onto a clean work surface and just knead it a few times until the dough starts to come together and firming up. As you can see here, I started by just pushing all the little crumbs together so that the dough just combines, and you just apply pressure as you need it. So you just press it down, pick it up, and then roll it, press it, and then just keep pressing it so your dough just combines. Once you're done, it should look something like this, where you see it's firmed up quite a bit, and when you press your fingers into it, it holds its shape. Now you're ready to just roll it out. Because my workbench is quite small, I just split a third of it, and then the rest that I wasn't working with, I just wrapped it up in some plastic wrap and set it on the side. So now that I'm rolling this, make sure that you lightly flour your workbench so that the dough doesn't stick to it, ensuring that later when you remove it, it's going to be a lot easier. Don't forget to flour your rolling pin as well so that your dough doesn't stick to it. So now as you just keep rolling it, roll it till about 1/2 centimeter thick, and then just keep flouring the surface whenever you find that it's necessary. And then when you're happy with however thick you want your pastry dough to be, just use your hands and just feel the top to make sure that you've evenly flattened it out. Next, if you have a 4-inch cookie cutter, use that, but I didn't have one, so I used this cute little puppy mug, which happens to be the perfect size. So once you're done cutting out all your rounds, keep the leftover dough because later you can make some really yummy cinnamon sugar cookies. So once you do that, just lightly grease a muffin tray. Here I'm just using some cooking spray, and then I use a paper towel to just swirl it around so as to remove any of the excess grease. Now putting it into your muffin pan can be quite tricky, but after much practice, this is the best way I have figured out how to put it in without tearing or ripping your dough, because it is quite delicate. So you just kind of fold it, try to make it like a little flower so that the air can escape from beneath your dough and come towards the side so that it wouldn't cause a puff pastry in the middle. And you can push it all the way down and then at the sides, just push it towards the edges. This dough is quite flexible, so you can just take your time and make it as neat or as messy as you want it. This dough is also quite forgiving, so if you accidentally make a little rip as you are putting it inside your pans, just take a bit of the excess dough and try to just stick it to mend the hole. Another tip is to make sure that your nails are short for this, if not that's going to result in some unnecessary stabbing. So once you're done lining all of your muffin cups with the dough, just use some ceramic pie weights. If you don't have these, you can just use rice. It should work just as good. And just get some cupcake liners, or you can just use baking paper and just cut it into little squares and put it in. But personally, I find using cupcake liners a lot easier to insert and remove without damaging your dough. So you just push it down to the bottom and just fill it with some pie weights or your rice. And this process is known as blind baking because we are going to bake these tarts before we fill it with the cheesecake filling. This ensures that your pastry's bases don't puff up while they bake, ensuring that you are able to fill it with more of the yummy cheesecake later on. So make sure your oven is preheated to 205 degrees Celsius. Bake it in the middle rack of your oven for 9 minutes until the edges start to brown. Now just remove all of that and set it aside, and now you're ready to make your cheesecake filling. So for the cheesecake, you will need a 1/4 cup of sour cream, 250 grams of softened cream cheese, 1/3 cup of caster sugar, 1 large egg, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, as well as some red food coloring. First, just add in your softened cream cheese into a bowl and just beat that on low until everything is smooth. You want to make sure that throughout this whole process, you're beating your cheesecake mixture on a low speed because you don't want to incorporate too much air into it, because that will result in having bubbles in your cheesecake. Don't forget to scrape down the sides and just keep beating that, remember, still on low speed, until you're satisfied with how smooth it is. It should look something like this. And now just add in your sugar and continue incorporating that, scraping down the sides whenever necessary so that everything is well mixed together and looks something like this. So once you get to this point, now you just add in your egg and your vanilla and just keep beating that until it's smooth. As you can see here, my electric mixer is set to its lowest speed, and I'm not like using the speed of my own hand to mix it too fast. I'm just very slowly just going around as my electric mixer goes because I really don't want to get too much air in it. So once it looks something like this, I just scrape down the sides so that I really manage to mix all my egg and everything together, and just continue mixing that for a little bit. And now I just added in the rest of the ingredients, which is just the sour cream, and just keep beating that still on low speed. Just keep mixing it until it looks smooth. Now just put dollops of the mixture into your tarts until they are full. Don't worry about it overflowing because these do not rise too much. They will rise a little bit as they bake, but once they cool, they will set down once again. So once you fill it all, just give your pan a little jiggle and a wobble to allow any of the bubbles that were in your mixture to rise up to the surface. And now you can just take a toothpick to pop it and just make a little swirl so as to smoothen off the surface again. So once you're done removing all of the bubbles from your surfaces, use a spatula and scrape down the remaining cheesecake batter. There wouldn't be much left. I'd say there's only about 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons left of batter. And just pour that into a small bowl. And now you just add in some red food coloring and stir that in until there are no more streaks inside. Now just take a Ziploc bag or a piping bag, roll down the sides, and just pop in your red cheesecake batter into a corner like what I am doing here. So once you put it all in, just twist it a couple times at the end, and then just cut a tiny little hole at the tip because this batter is quite liquidy, so a small hole will do. Be careful not to cut too big a hole because it's going to be really hard to control. And now you can just pipe it onto your cheese tarts. So here I'm just doing the outline of the heart shape first. So I just slowly, just carefully went around and drew the heart shape. And then I just roughly filled it in. Don't worry about it being messy, because now you can just get a toothpick and just slowly do little swirls so as to flood in the whole heart. As you can see, I did not stab the toothpick too deep into it such that it touches the white base. It's only within the depth of the colored cheesecake batter. As you can see here, the heart shapes look really pink, but the color will deepen as they bake. So once you're done decorating all of your cute little cheesecakes, just make sure your oven is preheated at 140 degrees Celsius, and you want to bake that for 23 minutes in the middle of your oven. And if you start to see that your cheese tarts are rising and causing it to crack really early on in the baking process, it's probably because your oven is too hot. So you want to lower your temperature down to 135 degrees Celsius and just keep baking it at that temperature if that happens. But keep in mind that these will rise a little bit as they bake, so don't worry about it if they are rising. Just make sure that they are not rising too much too quickly, causing it to crack. You will know that they are ready when they can wobble just ever so slightly and they are set to the touch. And keep your eyes peeled on that big nasty crack one on there. But as you can see, as it cools, the cheesecake will set, causing this broken heart to mend itself. And once they're cooled enough to handle, give it a twist, remove it, and place it on a cooling rack for it to finish setting until you're ready to devour them, which will probably be immediately. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful to you guys. If you've enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Cheryl N from Cherry Lane's Cupcakes.